back to my YouTube channel, Chit Chats with Henna Wilson. So in this video, I want to talk about how to write a good personal statement. So I wrote my personal statement for medicine. So the tips I'm going to share with you, I'm going to use medicine as an example. However, these are general tips so you can apply them to any course that you guys are doing. I applied to 4 universities for medicine. I applied to Leeds, Brighton, Cardiff and Lancaster, and 1 university for biological sciences, which was Leicester. So I'm going to share with you guys tips that I found useful when writing my personal statement, and I'm also going to show you guys how exactly I wrote my personal statement. So without further ado, let's get on with this video. So some basic information about the personal statement. So a personal statement is something that you have to submit when you're applying to universities in the UK, and it usually is a page long, and it talks about what makes you a good student for the course that you're applying. It talks about the skills that you have. So there is a word limit. It has to be 4,000 characters and 47 lines long. So keep that in mind when you're writing your personal statement. So let's start with our general tips. So my first tip would be not to write your introduction or get bogged down because you don't know how to write your conclusion. So the first thing I would suggest is writing your first 2 main chunk paragraphs and then think of how to write your introduction. So what this stops is it stops you from procrastinating because you don't know how to start your personal statement, or it kind of breaks the stigma that, you know, oh, your introduction has to be really good, so you don't know what to write. So just stick to first starting to write your main 2 chunk paragraphs, and then when you get into the flow of it, add your 2 introduction and conclusion. The next tip that I have is, this might be a bit controversial, but the next tip that I have is not to ask too many people to read over your drafts for your personal statement. I would suggest sticking to 2 people. So the 2 people I would suggest is, the first one being some sort of teacher. So it could be your subject teacher. So say if you're applying for English, you ask your English teacher, or it could be any teacher that helps you with the application process at school. And the second person I would recommend is somebody in that field. So for example, if you're applying to medicine, ask a medical student or ask a doctor. The reason why I suggest this, and it's a mistake that I made, I asked too many people and they all gave conflicting opinions, so I didn't know who to listen to, and it just made my whole process really confusing. So stick to those 2 people so you can trust them, and then listen to their opinions. And the third point I would say is to have a common theme or a common reason that you can always refer back to. So for example, using again the medicine example, so say if your common theme or your reason was I like challenges and medicine's a challenging career, refer back to that in your conclusion so that it will make your whole personal statement flow. So the next tip that I have, this is more of a general tip, is whenever you guys are doing volunteering, work experience, work shadowing, anything that you want to add to your personal statement, always write it down in your book or on your notes so you know what happened on each day of your volunteering or work experience or work shadowing. So for example, if you guys are doing work shadowing and you saw a certain procedure being performed, write it down, go home and research about it so you can talk about it in your personal statement, or you can have stories about it in your personal statement, and you can use it in your interview as well. So always write down whatever happens at your volunteering. So the last tip that I have, this might be a bit obvious, but it's to make your personal statement really personal. So you need to make your personal statement stand out. So the way to do that is to have anecdotes and personal experiences in your personal statement. So have like stories that you can explain in your personal statement that you've done or you saw on like your volunteering, your work experience or work shadowing. So what this does, it makes your personal statement different and stand out from all the others so you can really thrive. So now I'm going to tell you guys how I wrote my personal statement. So this is going to be kind of like a step-by-step guide. I just want to say this is how I wrote mine. This is not the only way to do it. This is just one way of doing it. Okay, so what I did first was I listed out all the things that I wanted to say in my personal statements, all the work experience, all the volunteering, all the work shadowing that I did. I listed them on one side. So you guys can either use list or mind maps. And then on the next side of the list, I talked about all the skills and the experiences and what those things have taught me. So this is the most important section. So this is what they actually want to know. What have you learned from your work experience? And then on the next side, I said how all those skills helps me be a good candidate, to be a good medical student and a good doctor in the future. So an example of this would be, for example, say if I talked the fact that I've learned dance for 10 years, and what has dance taught me? Dance has taught me about time management, it's taught me commitment, it taught me to have passions other than just my studies. So how does that help me become a good medical student, a good doctor? Well, that is because time management skills and commitment is something that you will need when you become a lifelong learner as a doctor. So I would suggest having 4 to 5 things to talk about like that, And then it's not about the quantity of the things that you've done, it's about the quality and what exactly have you learned from. So once you have your two main chunk paragraphs, now you need to work on your introduction and your conclusion. So let's start with the introduction first. So in the introduction, you need to say what is the exact reason for you picking that particular course. So if you're doing medicine, what is the exact reason of you wanting to be a doctor? So this is usually a good place to put in your anecdotes or your experiences that made you decide to do that particular course. And then in your conclusion, you need to link back the theme and the reason that I was talking about earlier from your introduction into your conclusion. And in your conclusion, you kind of need to talk about your willingness and enthusiasm to do that course. Okay, so this is how I wrote my personal statement. I was successful, so I got into Leeds to do medicine. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I'll be sharing more of my medical school application tips and how I got into medicine in my later videos. So if you guys are interested in that, please don't forget to subscribe, comment and share. I'll see you guys in my next video, so take care and bye!